In this video, guys, we're going to look at wide stop drills. Stay tuned. Hey guys, warm welcome to you. All right, so what's a wide stop drill? So basically what we're trying to do with this drill or exercise is to get to the root of the issue of being stopped out too many times. So often you're in a great trade, you'll know this, you've been in this situation many times, I'm sure. You're in a great trade, market comes back, just stops you out and then carries on in your direction. And it's super frustrating because you've done all the hard work, you've taken on the risk, you ended up with a losing trade, when in reality it was a great trade, you just had your stop a little bit too tight. And this can seriously affect your P&L. You know, your quarter can be a red quarter, a red month, purely because you just had your stops too tight on some positions. You know how thin the line is, guys, between, you know, having a good day or a bad day. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get down to the root of the issue, adjust our plan, look at the actual numbers, adjust our plan and move forward. So the wide stop drill is this. Number one is we reduce the position size. So we're going to widen the stop. What we need to do to keep the risk equivalent is to reduce that position size right down. Now listen, I'm a big fan of just reducing it down dramatically, you know, like by a quarter of what you'll normally do, even less, because this is an exercise that is not designed to kind of make you money, but it's designed to sow the seeds later on so that then you can grow as a trader. So first thing we do is reduce position size, then we widen the stop. So what does widen the stop mean? So we might traditionally have a stop at, say, 3 ATRs, or you might have it always put it under a key level, or you have a system for putting a stop at the moment. The way that this works is that we widen it right out. So we literally go right 4 times that size, or 3 times that size, or even more. So a super wide stop. And the idea of this is we don't want to be stopped. We want to see how the market's behaving so we get the information. Hey, what's happening after I take the trade? And then we don't want to be stopped out of the trade, is why we're reducing the risk, so we allow for that. We want to see exactly whether we're entering too early, whether we're entering too late, how many times the market comes down would have stopped us out. So the wide stop is basically just giving us data. We take the trade, we use the trigger, we get into the trade, we run the trade, we manage the trade, and then we kind of analyze and see what's gone on. The things that we're logging are the results. So we want to see, hey, what's the maximum adverse excursion? What's the maximum favorable excursion? In other words, when you take the trade, the maximum adverse excursion is how far. Imagine if this was a long trade. Let's do a little kind of diagram here. If you were long and this was what was happening and you went long at this point, your maximum adverse excursion is how far away the trade went against you, the maximum kind of loss you have to, unrealized loss if you like. And the maximum favorable excursion is how far the trade went in your favor before you closed it. And we're logging this information. Why is this important? Well, number one, maximum adverse excursion tells us, hey, this is how far the market went against us before it finally went for us, or the other way around. And so when we start to log the results and we start to get a pattern of results, if we start to say, oh, the maximum adverse excursion was, let's say, we trade a currency pair at 30 pips, for example, and there's a commonality that was the mean or that was the mode, we go, well, okay, we'll either have to have a stop at 40 pips so I can give a bit of room, or we need to work on our entries. You know, if we see a commonality here that we're constantly in a little bit too early, we're constantly kind of seeing decent maximum adverse excursion, you've got 2 ways of tweaking it. You go, right, work on my entry, and maybe every time I get a trigger, just put a bid in at 20 pips below. So like, okay, normally we'll go here, right, put a bid in, a limit order 20 pips below, or have the stop. You've got data now. This is the important bit, guys. You're logging the results to get data so that you can use the way you trade and say, that's the way I trade. How can I wrap my risk management and stop criteria around that, rather than, you know, constantly getting stopped out 20 pips, 20 pips, 20 pips. You look at the data and go, well, actually, I need to just widen it a little bit, reduce the size. Does it still work out the risk reward ratio? Yes, it does. Same with the maximum favorable excursion. You know, that's probably unnecessary for a stop loss position. That's for taking trades too early. If you're constantly taking trades at, you know, 50 pip profit, for example, and your maximum favorable excursion is quite commonly 75, then you'll need to adjust your exit criteria. That's kind of a different topic, really. And then we adjust the plan. So once we've got the data, widen the stop, reduce the position size so we're not taking on excessive risk. Once we've got this data, we can go, right, I know now that the maximum adverse excursion, the commonality of this is X. So where do I put my stop? I put it just under that, or I work on my entry as another kind of angle of attack. But if we say on the stop theme, it's just widening that stop a little bit. Or, you know, you kind of find that, well, actually, you know, maximum adverse excursion isn't that much on the trades that work for me. For example, maybe it's only 20 pips. We're using that same analogy, so I can have my stop at 25 pips. But the ones that don't work, you know, they just don't work straight away. So you can then say, well, actually, I can use a bit of a tighter stop. I can afford to take a bit more risk on the trade, a bit more size. So this is a good exercise, guys, because very often we take a trade, we close it, we get stopped, and we forget about it, we move on to the next one. Whereas if we're doing this, we get much more data, much more information. Don't forget, this is not an exercise in trying to make as much money as possibly can. This is an exercise in getting some information so we can go back, adjust the plan, and tweak it for better performance in the future. Take care, guys. See you next one. Bye-bye.